Yeah, and this is what I was using for a bookmark, so I went down the pages.
Right on, yeah. No, and sometimes, you know, with reading the book, you know, just to keep your place and to follow up under there, I do the same thing. I mean, sometimes I look at, like, you know, bookmarks are kind of a lost, you know, like I remember that they were really popular, like in the, you know, when I was in school and stuff, and then someplace it ended up not being so popular, so. All
I'll be
right.
here, give it to me Sunday night.
Oh, yeah, all right. So here's the thing: is if y'all have the book, you don't have to pay it right now. It's cool. You can wait if you want to pay now. You can. I have no
the
more
money.
change. What's that?
I have the money now.
Oh
so
yeah,
pay
no,
it
that's
now.
good. No, I'm just making a general statement to
Yeah.
everyone. So if you don't, it's okay. We'll get it from you later. All right. Well, let's open up in prayer.
God has blessed me, therefore I must keep the blessings going.
All
so
right.
He keeps blessing me.
Very good, very good. All right, let's pray. Father, in Jesus' name, thank you today, Lord, for the opportunity you've given for us, God, to come to hear and to learn something today, God. We pray that you would help us to be able to receive the information that we're taking in. And we pray in Jesus' name that we would become different, that we would become changed, and we would see active change happen within our life. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
All right, so what I want to do is, before we get started, our goal will be to keep this to 1 hour. Now, sometimes trying to keep it to an hour can be hard, but here's the thing, is that, you know, when everyone takes the opportunity to speak, we want to give everyone a chance to talk. The class will be interactive. We're going to talk about what we've read. If some of you have not read yet, it's okay. But this is the opening class, or the introductory class. We are going to be going over the first 3 chapters today as an overview. Now, it's just an overview, so you don't have to necessarily worry about reading it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be reading the summary of each chapter to give you an idea and to keep you kind of on track with it. I want to remind you that if you don't have the hard copy of the book, this work is available on YouTube. It's on YouTube. You can listen to it, and it's in form of an audio book. In fact, there's a couple of different versions of it, or not necessarily versions, different readers. So there's one to where it's a male. I've seen another where it's a female reader. So if you have a preference, then you can seek out the preference that you have. But if you want to listen to it, I will remind you that the book is, I mean, now this is the larger print of it, but you know, just in terms of the book itself, it is a total of, I believe, 19 chapters.
20, I think it was.
It's 20, okay, so 20 in total. Okay, yeah, so 20 chapters in total. You're right. The downsizing of creating good habits. Yeah. So you'll have 20 chapters in the book to read. Now, the audio book is approximately 6.5 hours. So to listen to it, about 6.5 hours. You know, you can, now of course, just like with the chapter book, we wouldn't ask that you read the entire book in one sitting. So just like with the audio book, you know, what I've done both, so I can kind of give you a little bit of a foundation. Now, with the chapter, with actual listening to it, I listened to it in about 10 sessions. And that was like, I would go and I would walk. So I do like my walking, and I would listen to it. And sometimes, you know, it would be 30 minutes. Sometimes it would be like 45 minutes. But I just listened to it each time. And sometimes I really got, you know, into it so much where I couldn't stop. It's like, okay, this is pretty good. I'm learning more as I do it. So to read it, as well as to listen to it, it will help your cognitive understanding of the book. If you do it that way, some of you may be just good at reading, So if you want to just read it, you can just read it and get what you can from it that way. The thing I would recommend with this book is if you're taking the opportunity to just read it, I would say that to read it with a highlighter, or at least a pen where you can underline, you can highlight some things, because there are some really good concepts within this book that after you've read it, you'll want to go back to. You want to look at it again. There might be some parts of it that you want to commit to memory, because there's, there are powerful concepts in this that I think that you can really grow from. So, as I give the introduction, so people have asked, like, okay, what is an atomic habit? Well, if you've read the introduction, or even if you've read the first chapter, you'll find that an atomic habit is a small but powerful habit. Sometimes we think that, like, oh, if I have a bad habit, we consider it big. If we have a good habit, we consider it small. But what I want to do is I want to help you to change your mindset in terms of habits and, their effect, not only their effect, but their value. So, we're going to be going over the first 3 chapters, and it's basically going to be going over the section of the book, which is the fundamentals. So, in the introduction, in 2019, I was asked to lead a group of real estate professionals that were ready to leave the real estate business because they were discouraged with their lack of productivity. In interviewing these individuals, I noticed that most of them were upset because they were once excited about owning their own business. They were excited about the fact that they had passed the real estate exam. They were excited about, like, just, all the prospects of being a real estate agent. They were just really excited at one time, and over time, their excitement started to wane. It started to dip a little bit. One of the things that a lot of them started to become discouraged with is, I interviewed all of them, and a lot of them said, like, well, when I first started this, I thought that it would, that things would come together for me faster. Majority of people said that. There were some people that said that they were at their wits' end because they felt like they tried everything and nothing would work. Then there was another part of the group that was just really, like, they had personalized a lot of what they were feeling within their quote unquote failure in the real estate business. So they felt like that, maybe I'm not the type of person for this. Maybe this is not for someone like myself. Maybe it's just not something that I can do. Now, this started for me in teaching real estate professionals. However, habits are part of every aspect of success within your life.
Oh, what you're reading is something different.
Yeah.
That's not this.
No, I'm just giving you the introduction. No.
Oh, because I'm looking at the introduction here, and I'm looking up there. That's something different. What you reading?
Well, no, it's the same thing. Oh, no, we're not reading in the book yet. Not reading in the book yet.
Okay.
That's my introduction. That's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's how I got introduced to the book. Because some people say, well, why are we doing Atomic Habits, or what's important, or what's so good about this book as opposed to other books? Some people ask, like, well, why didn't we do a Christian title or Christian author? We did that last time with the Purple Book. And the Purple Book was a discipleship book. It was a book to kind of help to get you off the ground with your walk with God. This book addresses, so it's not a Christian book, it's a secular book, just meaning non-Christian. But it addresses something that I believe that the church leaves out a lot of times. Oftentimes within the church, we get people that say, okay, I'm ready to turn my life over to God. And I'm ready for God to do a work within my life. Have any of you ever thought of, church as being that way? Like you come and you're surrendering yourself to God. You're coming to church to partake in the activity of getting closer to God. And all those things are good because it helps to establish a foundation with you and God. However, it leaves us a little short on accomplishing things. So a lot of times we can get into church and start attending church, but then really see that, like, other than serving God, your life hasn't really changed much. So there's people that, you know, they give their life to the Lord and they have certain habits. Now, the habits that the church considers taboo are the habits that people, a lot of times, they just put a mask on and they just say, okay, well, I'm not going to do this at church. Now, think of some of those taboo habits that the church is opposed to. I'm just asking you, what do you think some of the things that the church is opposed to? I'll give you one. How about drinking alcohol? Now, yeah, oh, there you go. Smoking. All right, you know, in the church, you know, a lot of times the idea is like, we don't smoke, we don't drink, we don't chew, and we don't associate with people that do. Now, what I said about that is a lot of times people just mask. Like, okay, well, at the church, oh, I can't drink at church, so I just won't bring that part of my life up around people at church. Problem solved. People could say, oh, well, as Joey mentioned, smoking. Oh, well, smoking, the church does not want you to do that, so I'm going to keep my cigarettes at home. I ain't going to smoke at church. I'm going to smoke around people at church. But do you see what the problem is with that? That some of those things, like, you know, like, people get saved and say, okay, well, I want to get saved because I don't want certain things in my life. And now that I can incorporate Jesus in my life, I won't have those other problems. But the reality is this: if you want to get anything out of your life, the majority of things that you want to get out of your life, or the good things that you want to bring into your life, are not going to be solved by you coming to an altar and having anyone.
You got to do it. You got to do
it. Hey, just wait a minute. It's not going to be solved by you just coming and having someone to pray for you. It's not going to be solved by you sitting in my office for a counseling session. A lot of times people say, hey, Pastor, I am having trouble within my marriage, and I need you to help me to get my marriage in order. Okay. I can give you the information that would help you to have a better marriage, but if you don't apply any of that advice, nothing's going to happen. You might feel good about yourself that you came and you talked to the pastor. You might feel good about yourself that you came and had someone lay hands on you to help you to, quote unquote, to stop smoking, or to stop drinking, or to stop yelling at your spouse, or to stop, you know, doing things that create, or that are bad habits. But in reality, in order to establish a good habit, or to eradicate or to eliminate a bad habit, it's going to take more than just someone praying for you, someone talking to you. It's going to take more than that. Now, some of y'all know me as a pastor. I'm big on goal setting. Now, when we think about goals, you know, how many, just honestly, how many of you set goals? Just raise your hand if you set goals, right? Okay. So at some level, you set goals. Now, how many of you write your goals down? Anybody write their goals down? Okay, right? No, not really. All right. And I've been on both sides of the spectrum. Sometimes the reason why I don't write goals down is because, like, I feel like, I should know better. I should be doing this, and I should just be doing this anyway. So why am I going to even write it down? A lot of times I don't write goals down that I've written down before and I haven't followed through with. Like, I know I need to do this, so I'm just going to start doing it. Well, here's the thing. I got news for you, and this is something, if you've read the book says exclusively, goals are not good. Now, theoretically, it's good to have a goal. But a lot of times people stop at just writing goals now, or just having a goal. Like, hey, I want to find a better job. And they establish that goal within their mind. I want to get in shape. I want to get in shape. And they write it down. I want to get in shape. I want to, or they might write down, I'm going to start going to the gym. Okay. I'm going to start exercising. And that's all fine and good. But if there's no system to back that up, you're going to have a hard time executing the goal. Now, here's the thing. I'll give you an example. In my real estate business, one of the things that I do actively to get business is I prospect. I consider it to be like farming for pecans. Anybody ever had a pecan tree? Anybody ever had a pecan tree? Or
I had when I was younger.
when you were young? Okay, all right. So one of the things that we look at, like with harvesting pecans from a pecan tree, is sometimes, like if you wait long enough, what will happen to the pecans in the tree?
All to the ground.
They'll fall to the ground. You know, the weight of the pecan after they become, once they become ripe, once they start to lose their little husk, they'll just, the sun will dry them out and they'll just fall on the ground, okay? That's one way to harvest pecans. But there's another way to be able to harvest pecans. And that's to shake the trees. To shake them.
Oh,
When you
yeah.
shake them, then they start to fall down. Now, in a commercial farming setting, what they have is they have a machine that shakes the trees. Big old machine. It looks like a scaffold, and it has like two arms that go around the actual tree, and it shakes them at the base. And then in that shaker, they've also got a net which catches all of the pecans that fall down, so it makes like a smoother process. But if a person only waits for the pecans to fall out of the tree, they're basically handcuffed by the sun, the trees, the elements, and everything else. So sometimes it's necessary to shake the trees. Are you with me?
And the birds could eat the nut.
The birds could eat them, right? They could go. Now, a lot of times, what will happen in a pecan tree is that the nuts will go, or they'll go beyond their ripe state, and they'll go bad on the tree. Sometimes here in Arizona, we see more like the abundance of citrus trees. And one of the things with citrus trees is if you don't pick the fruit, they'll go rotten on the vine.
See a lot of grapefruit.
What's that?
You see a lot of grapefruit trees.
See a lot of grapefruit trees. As Lisa had mentioned, sometimes you'll have birds that will come and they'll just eat the rotten fruit, or they'll eat the fruit, and it makes a nice little meal for them. But then most people don't have a problem with the birds, but particularly in the Arcadia area, areas around the church, we have a varmint that attacks the fruit trees. Anybody knows what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Roof rats.
I was gonna say roof rats.
Yeah. Roof rats will come and they get in the tree, and they have a feast off of unpicked fruit. So a lot of times, what will happen with those roof rats is they're in the tree. Now remember, they're not called tree rats; they're called roof rats. It says they'll get on the roof of your house, and at night they'll burrow into your attic, and you can have an infestation of these rats, and it's all because someone did not pick the tree.
Yeah.
Tree was there when the individual planted the tree. They had grandiose ideas of like, oh, I'm going to have an orange tree in my backyard, and then I don't have to spend all my money at Fry's on oranges because I'll just have them in my backyard and I can pick them. But what tends to happen is that tree produces more fruit than you're willing to go out there and pick, or you're able to eat. So a lot of times it just becomes wasted. Now, in comparison, that's the same way that potential can happen within our lives. Our lives can have so much potential, but if we don't work the tree, if we don't go out and we don't do some maintenance, if we don't do some things that help us to be able to have a healthy life or quote unquote a healthy tree, you're just going to have something that is more burdensome than is more beneficial. So I want to talk to you about, as we talk about the atomic habits, I had mentioned, how did I start with the study of atomic habits? And the book was written in 2018.
Oh, wow.
I discovered it in 2019. So in 2019, as I've got these real estate agents, hello, Sister Latanya, had a group of real estate agents, and I was tasked with the assignment of helping them to get their business together. All of them, remember, they were all discouraged and they were all ready to quit because they had said they had gotten their real estate license, and 6 months later, they had not sold one home. So now, what type of frustration do you think that could have brought them? Disappointment, right?
Financial.
Oh, there you go. Financial hardship. They paid for school, they made the investment to become a real estate agent, but it was not paying off. They weren't getting any return on their investment. What else?
Feeling like a failure.
Feeling like a failure. So a lot of the people, they internalized and said, you know what? Because this real estate business is not working, maybe it's me. Maybe it's because I'm a failure. Maybe it's because I'm not good enough. Maybe it's because, all the people that are doing good at this, they're all whatever. And a lot of them, they said, well, all the people that seem to be doing good in real estate, they're all good looking. They're all thin. They're all this, they're all that. And you know what? That couldn't be further from the truth. But that's what their minds defaulted to because they were not seeing the success that they wanted to. So, okay, I challenged them to attend a 4-week class to help them restore their hope in the real estate career. Not necessarily in the real estate career, but basically to restore hope within themselves. Because here's the thing I had to remind all of these people. I had to remind them that you passed the real estate test. And when I told them about passing the real estate, they're like, yeah, I did. I was like, and I had to remind them, it's like, was it kind of hard to pass that test? Yeah, it was hard.
Oh, damn.
I had to study a lot. I had to turn my television off. I had to turn off all entertainment, and I had to really focus to study and to pass the test. Okay. And I asked, well, what did you do once you passed the test? Man, I celebrated, I partied, I had a good time. I was happy that I passed it. It's like, okay, and then what happened after then? And some of the people said, well, I continued to party for the next 6 months.
Wow.
Some of them were just so happy that they passed the test that they didn't really think about all that was going to take in order for them to be successful in actually the business. So what I pointed out to them is that they were successful in one part, and in that one part, they were great at it. And it's the same thing, I'm sure, when someone graduates college. You might graduate college, and once you graduated, it's okay, great. I got my cap, I got my gown, I got my degree, it's on the wall, but I ain't got no job. And a lot of times, what people have to do is they've got to reevaluate how they were able to push through school. And that same discipline that they used to push through school, and not just discipline, everybody say habits.
Habits.
The habits that they established to get through school were not habits that were only valuable in getting through school. The habits needed to follow them after the schooling process. So our class consisted of 14 students, and what we did for the next 14 weeks changed many of these people forever. Now, how did it change them forever? Well, it changed them forever because out of the now I give you the statistic, out of the 14 that I had in that class, 12 of them were able to get a sale within the next 30 days.
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
Now, the sad news was that the two that didn't make it, they dropped out of the class after the first 2 weeks. They were just, forget it. This is stupid. Why am I going to listen to this? And they quit. And not only did they quit, but they eventually made their way out of the real estate business. And I would say that it wasn't because they were bad people. It wasn't because they were too big or too small, or because their teeth weren't straight, or because they didn't have a luxury car. A lot of them said that. They said, oh, but everybody in real estate, if they do good at it, they have a luxury vehicle. And the first thing I had all of them to do after we finished our first class was to follow me out to the parking lot. And I showed them my truck. They're like, oh, so you sell real estate in this? Sure do. Oh.
When I worked with the real estate agent, the guy, he had a truck at first.
Right.
It was a semi-nice truck, but he still sold it from a truck.
Right.
And then he went and got a newer Suburban because he wanted to have a thing where he could take more clients
people, yeah.
with his truck.
Right.
And that was the only reason why he upgraded. It wasn't because he thought it would make him a better salesperson. He just wanted to take more people.
Right, absolutely. So yeah, so in that sense, I think that and I'll tell you, of all the people that were in that class, they all had newer vehicles than me. So it was a big encouragement to them to see like, wow, I got a nicer car than this person that's teaching me these concepts. So I think that it gave them some hope. We're able to, and they were like, well, how long have you been doing this? And at the time, I think that I had been in the business for like 23 years. It's like, like 23 years. Like, oh, so have you ever had a new car? So I had a new car when I started. But there was financial things I went through. I had kids to raise. I was trying to help put my wife through school. So I couldn't always keep, a luxury car. I had to just get something that got me around. Sometimes I had car problems, but here's the thing that all of them learned after the 4 weeks was that they were good enough, that they were capable, and they weren't bad people because they didn't get a sale within the first 6 months. One of the things I had to do is I had to reshape their thinking to let them know that they were not bad people. So today, as we talk about the Atomic Habits book, I want to just go around the room here, and I want everyone to talk about or just mention like a good habit that you have and a bad habit that you have. So one that's good that you want to keep and one that you want to get rid of. Let's start with our sister Chandra.
Good habit. I save like a couple hundred every paycheck.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
started that recently, so it's good
Right.
for now. And then bad habit. I spend a lot of money on books, so I know it's not bad, but they're expensive.
Okay.
So maybe I should cut it down because I'll have like 10 to go, and then I haven't finished them. So
What type of books do you like to read?
I like fantasy.
All right.
So yeah, I have like 5 on the back burner.
Right
But then I'll
on.
get a new book, so that's where
And then
I'm-
okay, I got you.
before I finish it.
Very good. All right, Brother Frank.
Well, that's a pretty heavy topic, man. I try to make it short, but it's so you can talk a lot on it.
Right.
I've
You
been
got
in
an
recovery-
hour.
I've been in recovery. I've been in recovery for a long, long time.
Right.
And there's a lot of habits I dropped, and there's a lot of good habits that I picked up.
Okay.
And it takes discipline. And it takes patience, and it takes time to change habits. You go out there and you're full board, just like January 1st, you made a New Year's resolution, and then if things don't come out the way they come out right quick, you give up on it. You got to be patient. You got to do it just a little bit all the time, just like I work out.
So would you say that working out is a good habit? That
Oh
you have?
yeah,
Okay.
that's one of my better ones, and I
How
write it
often
down
do you work out?
Every day.
Every day?
I might
Okay.
have one day off a week, but I
Right.
work in different parts of my body.
Okay.
And I got to write it down a lot of times because I forget sometimes what I do. But
Right.
But it's just a little at a time of whatever it is, and within time the changes will come.
Very good.
You know.
Okay. One bad habit.
One bad habit, and you preach on it all the time. What comes out of this mouth, man. I mean,
I'll take that too.
when it comes out of this mouth, this little tongue here, man, is very, very powerful, and it can gets you in a lot of trouble, and it's very dangerous.
Okay.
And you continue to talk on it, and don't ever stop talking about it. You constantly talk about judging, you know, and because I come from a background that's all you did was find something wrong with somebody. Never nothing good.
Right.
And that'll be something that I have to do for the rest of my days. I'm getting better because I'm making the effort, and I'm closing my mouth, and I'm starting to accept whatever it is that I want to judge on. That's them. Leave them alone. Take care of yourself.
Very good.
You know,
Very good. Well,
yeah.
no, that's good. I like that. You know, that sometimes the habit of being judgmental or being too critical can
Oh,
really.
yes. Critical. My
Yeah.
mother was, oh my God. If she gave me, I'll say this, I'll shut up because I get started on my mother. If she gave me 10 chores to do, and I did 9 of them excellently, one I didn't do, she ain't compliment, no nothing about the 9 I did. It's just like, what is wrong with you?
Right.
Once you look at this thing, and you know what that did to my feelings, how I felt. You know, I
Sure.
felt like it don't matter what I did, it wasn't going to be enough.
Wasn't
And I
enough.
had that deep in me.
Mhm.
That takes a long time to get out of that, you know?
Right.
I'm okay. Nothing helps better than coming to Christ because you're his child. And he loves you. If nobody else hasn't loved you to this point,
Right.
you got it now.
Very good. Very good.
Shut up with that.
No, very good. Sister Latanya, good habit and a bad habit.
I think one of my good habits is worship.
Mm.
Whether it be singing,
Worship, very good.
making it to a church service, or just worshiping, fellowship.
Very good. That's good. And you know, you mentioned other things that encompass worship. It's just coming to service, just, you know, making worshiping, you know, very good.
Yeah,
All
that's
right,
very
bad habit.
important. That's very important because it's not all about singing. Just,
Yeah,
you say
that's
worship
right.
a lot of times you think about singing.
Yep.
It's not all
No,
about
bad
singing.
habit.
That's right. It's your complete service to the Lord.
We're worshiping right now.
That's right. That's right. Yep. And we're not even reading a Christian book.
Right.
Look at that. Yes. All right. So bad habit.
Bad habit, punctuality.
Punctuality.
Oh,
Okay.
I'll
All
take
right.
that.
Right. Me
Yeah.
too. I don't know if it's cultural, but you know, yeah, I get that. You know, that like sometimes and typically in couples, you have one that's punctual, one that's not. I mean, and if you guys guessed it, Kathy's always on time. She's always early to everything. I, on the other hand, I'm typically run a little bit late. So. Very good. Okay. Yes, Sister
Something
Lisa.
else to do.
Hello.
For me, early riser.
Oh, that's a good habit.
Yes.
Oh, very good. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I wake up always early. I don't know how many times I try to sleep in, I just can't.
Right.
I always am an early riser. And I'm one of those really weird people. I'm awake 3 to 4 minutes and I'm wide awake and I'm ready to go. And just eat for the most part, usually in a really good mood.
How long have you been like that?
Pretty much all my life.
Okay. All right. So that's a good habit. All right. Give us a bad one.
Procrastination.
Procrastination. Is there anybody that does not have the habit of procrastination?
yeah.
Sometimes, right?
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
horrible at it. I am so horrible at it.
Okay. Well,
I've
good.
gotten better.
All right. Hello, sister. We're just we're talking about We're talking about habits. That's what our study is about for the next 7 weeks. We just started on it today, so you came in on the first one. But what we're doing is we're just going around the room and we're mentioning one good habit and one bad habit that we have. Joey?
Good habit is I just started the gym yesterday.
Oh, okay, great.
And then that bad habit is I need to stop swearing.
Okay, all right. That's
I swear a
good.
lot.
Well, you know, but that's very encouraging. Like, you know, that you started a good habit. Like, okay, I'm gonna be consistent with going to the gym. That's good. You know, for a lot of people, just to sign up for a gym is it brings a lot of anxiety. It brings a lot of self-doubt. But like for you to cross that and make it a habit, that's good. And cussing, I could say that can be a bad one for me too at times. So I'm with you. All right, Brother Ed.
I'm gonna have to go reverse, bad habit versus, just like Brother Frank, what comes out of the mouth, thoughts, because of how other people think and what other people say.
Right.
Lately, for a while, I should say, I've tended to kind of like be drawn into it, you know, being judgmental, and it's not right. So I kind of pull myself away from it, and the good habit is just to leave it alone, you know. Worry about myself, because with the bad habits, it affects my walk.
Right.
It affects what I do daily. And I'm very, very critical with others, and I can't be. So the good habit would be just reverse of that habit.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Yeah, that's good. You know, that sometimes negativity, as Brother Frank had mentioned, it can start when we're very young. And, you know, so we have to think about that, like, you know, our early development. You know, if you were around someone that was highly critical, if, like Brother Frank had mentioned, I could tell, you know, my mom could give me 10 chores, and if I did 9 of those 10, she would be the most critical on the 10, on the one I did not complete, rather than, you know, giving me some encouragement on the ones that I did. So sometimes I think, and I can be in that same category myself, of just taking the negative side of things. You know, right now we know that I don't know what the temperature is today, but I imagine it's over 105 degrees, right? It's not quite 110, but it's over 105. Now, it always baffles me when people complain about the heat and they live here. It's part of, you know, I look at, like, I try not to complain about the heat. I just say, you know, it's what we got to deal with. And a lot of times when I talk to people, I'll tell them, like, you know, they'll say, oh, it's so hot. And I'll say, well, you know what? Within about a month, it's going to peak. And it'll go down from there, so it won't be hot all the time. But some people, you know, like that they can just, oh, it's so hot. And gee, it's so hot, I'm so sweaty. And it's just, and the traffic is bad. And then, oh, it's so hot in here. And why is it so hot? You know, and it's you know, it's just hot all the time. And when are we ever going to get some relief? But if you conceptualize it like that, you'll never find anything good that can come from it. Something positive, something negative. What's your first name again?
Teresa.
Teresa. All right, Teresa.
I guess
thank
the
you.
positive thing would be that I'm getting more sleep.
Okay, getting more quality sleep. Very good.
The
You
negative
may-
thing is the drinking.
Okay, drinking. All right, all right. Well, you know, and that's something that, you know, and I can say that at a time in my life, I don't think I was ever an alcoholic, but drinking was a problem. You know, it was more or less like every weekend going out. And if I go out with a group of friends, everyone is drinking. So I would in turn, hey, you know, monkey see, monkey do. I'd drink with them. But then I started to see the effects of that, and I started to look at, like, that, you know, I started to equate a good time with drinking. So everything that I wanted to do that was fun, I thought, well, hey, let's pour a drink. Let's get some beer. Let's get some back in my day. It was, now don't laugh at me for this. It was Zima. Some of y'all don't remember that. It's like a little, kind of like a lightweight type drink, but it was my jam at the time, you know.
Never heard of it. I quit before that.
Okay, all right, very good, very good.
I've never heard of them either.
Yeah, now it's equivalent today of people drinking like White Claw. Anybody ever heard of White Claw? All right, so it's kind of like, but yeah, so drinking now in itself, inherently, if someone has a drink every once in a while, I think that people can live with that. I think people can actually live with a drink here or there. But then, you know, when you see the damage, or if it's creating collateral damage within your life, I think that's when you know that it's time to, hey, I can't handle this. Or if you see, like for myself, I had two alcoholic parents, and I've always been conscious of the fact that they were alcoholics, and I don't want to be that. I don't want to be an everyday drinker. So I always like had safeguards to keep me from that. But even occasionally doing it, it wasn't good for me because I think I had still the same characteristics of an alcoholic, even though I was not over drinking, but I still had that. And it was just, within time, I think that my weekly drinking would have turned into everyday drinking if I would have continued with it. So that was a habit that I had to get rid of. Now, I had written some habits down here, and our sister Teresa hit the nail on the head: sleep. She said that she's developed a good habit of getting sleep. How many of you would say that you get enough sleep every night? Okay, we got now. I would say that now I'm with you. I do.
Plus
because
naps.
What's that?
Plus naps.
Plus naps. Yeah, no, and that's the thing is naps are part of sleep. One thing that I did to help me with my sleep, and I wasn't sleeping good because I wasn't really I wasn't consciously putting thought into okay, why am I sleeping bad? Now, here's the thing is, before I stopped drinking soda, I drink soda all day. There was not a bad time for a soda. So I could drink soda in the morning, I could drink soda at night, and I would, a lot of times before I go to bed, I'd have me I'd go open a can of soda, and I'd drink half of it, and I'd put it on the side of my bed. So when I wake up, if I wake up, it's like, go ahead and give me a drink real quick. Now, here's the thing. It was, but you know what? My addiction to that didn't even matter about it being flat. It didn't matter about it not being cold. It just needed to be right there to where I could grab it and throw it up. So those were habits. That was a habit that I had to consciously get rid of. But we're going to talk about getting rid of the habits and all that. But I just wanted us to kind of break the ice. So if there's anyone that's here, everyone, oh, Brother Art, you ain't gonna hide back there. Good habit, bad habit.
Good habit is trying to maintain a time schedule. Bad habit is trying to maintain a clean area.
All right. Hey, I guess we're all being honest here today. All right. So, as Brother Art said, that the keeping good time schedule, good habit. Because that is, some of us have a problem with chronically being late. But if you develop the habit of keeping a good time schedule, you can change that. But then his bad habit, a little bit of a pack rat, a little bit of a messy area, right? But now, how many of you would say in your personal space that you can be a little bit of a bad, right? Okay, I think all of us. Now, through reading this book, I learned how to start keeping my house clean. Now, no one wants to admit that they got a dirty house. But I used to, and the thing is that my wife used to put it on herself and be like, oh, this house is so dirty and I've been so busy. But the thing that I think the Holy Spirit triggered me with was hey, that ain't all her responsibility. You should also be helping to keep this house neat and clean. And, I think culturally, I always thought, my mom always cleaned the house. My dad really didn't do any cleaning in the house because it was just my mom's job. But one of the things that I saw was instead of putting that entire burden on her, I started to take on the responsibility too. And when she started to see I was starting to help, it helped her to relieve some of the pressure of okay, what's not just my responsibility, it's his responsibility too. And she started to, because for me, it wasn't the fact that I didn't like a clean house. Of course I liked a clean house. It wasn't the fact that I wasn't able to clean the house. For me, I needed somebody to crack the whip. I needed somebody to tell me to do it. Are there any habits that you have developed in life because someone helped you develop the habit by telling you to do it, right? A lot of people that go through our military or have been through the military, basic training is a part of being in the military. It's the first part of it that teaches you some basic skills. Anybody been in the military that can tell? Okay, what does basic training teach you, brother Ed?
Be disciplined, it's about discipline, be physically fit,
Okay,
mentally fit,
right.
Ready.
Organization,
right?
right? You know, habits. I know a lot of I talked to my dad about being in the military, and he'd tell me like, yeah, and this was something I never saw my dad go afoul from. Every day that my father lived, he always made his bed. My dad, you know, it seemed like that was the thing that my dad didn't do housework, but my dad always made sure that him and my mom's bed was made. I could always go into their bedroom. Their bed was always made because the military taught him that at a young age. And I asked him, I said, so you didn't? He's like, no. At my house, my parents weren't big on that. He said, so I made my bed whenever they asked me like to clean the room or something, but you know, it wasn't part of my habits. But like working out, his brother Ed had mentioned, you know, he said, yeah, he said, when I got into the service, I started doing my calisthenics because that was something that we had to do, and I carried that on beyond the military. So sometimes we need a little bit of a whip to be cracked in order for us to do things. Church. Now, a lot of times we develop the habit of coming to church. Now, we develop the habit of coming to church for a number of reasons. A lot of times people come to church because it's a peaceful place to come to. A lot of times people come to church because that's where their social network is at. They met like-minded people at church, so that becomes their habit. Well, if you're going to be there, then I'm going to be there, and they just start coming to church. As our sister Latanya mentioned, church a lot of times is a place where we identify it with the place of worship. Well, that's where I go to worship, so I make worship a habit, so I make sure that I am in church. So that was a habit of coming to church, and the residual habit of coming to church, what does it do? It makes you a stronger believer. It can help you to learn more of the Bible.
Help ground you.
It can help to ground you, yes. A lot of times you can feel like anchorless within life without having the discipline of going to church. You know, if you have nothing to do on Sunday morning, you might sleep in. You might, hey, I'm just going to go do my shopping that day. I'm going to do laundry on that day. But if you have the habit of coming to church, then that establishes a lot of other residual good things that can happen within life. Okay, so now, chapter 1. What are you going to learn when you read chapter 1? Well, the title of chapter 1 is the surprising power of atomic habits. Now, the surprising power of atomic habits. Now, the chapter summary reads as this: habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. Getting 1% better each day counts for a lot in the long run. So, if you've already read the first chapter, you will know that, within the first couple of pages, the author starts talking about small changes. Doesn't go over big changes, doesn't go over grand changes. He emphasizes on small changes. Everyone say small changes.
Small changes.
So if you want to do something like, hey, I want to walk to Tucson. You would say, Pastor, what kind of crazy habit is that? Like, why would I want to walk to Tucson? But it would start with one step, right? You'd start with, hey, I want to make it to Van Buren. And you have to go through, you have to get out of this building, you have to cross the parking lot, and then eventually you'll hit Van Buren, right? And then you got, okay, what direction I go? Well, I got to head east. And you start heading east, and then you got to go south. And then you go south for a very, very, very long time, and eventually you get to Tucson. But If you say, well, I want to get to Tucson, that's my goal. Well,
That's that thumbing.
what good is that goal without some tiny choice, some tiny change, some tiny decision that will help you to get to Tucson? Yes, sir.
Can I give you a good example of that?
Yeah.
The football. Vince Lombardi had the Packers
Right.
in that day, and they had about 14 straight losing seasons.
Right.
And he took over, and he told them he didn't want them to be anything else but what they were.
Right.
But just give it a little more effort. An
Mhm.
extra push-up, an extra lap, an extra whatever it was, and before you knew it, they were world champions.
Right. Right.
Just a little bit at a time.
A little at a time. So as Brother Frank mentioned, one push-up. Now you might think like, oh, if I had the goal to do one, what is one push-up gonna do?
Try to do one more today.
Might,
Couple
yeah,
days, do another extra one.
right? Might turn into a half push-up that you do on another day. You know, before long, you'll be doing 10. You'll be doing more. If it's like a lot of times we quantify our goals in levels of measurement. Oh, well, I want to be able to walk a mile. That's a good goal. But how about just walking a block?
Right.
Walk a block. Eventually, one block will motivate you to walk a second block.
I
Motivate you.
walk 3 miles a day.
3 miles every day, very good. Yeah, so it takes the independent, small habits in order to make something go. All right, so now, habits are a double-edged sword. They can work for you or against you, which is why understanding the details is essential. All right, so good habits and bad habits. Habits can be a double-edged sword because habits can be in the modality of good habit and it can be in the modality of a bad habit. We all went around the room and discussed that. Small changes often appear to make no difference until you cross a critical threshold. The most powerful outcomes of any compounding process are delayed. You need to be patient. So, when we think about the grand idea, we're like, okay, well, eventually I want to do this. But when we look at the appearance of small changes, what do we a lot of times say? Oh, this isn't doing nothing. Anybody ever started a diet and quit? Anybody ever started a diet and quit? I remember back in the 80s, there was something called the cabbage soup diet. Anybody ever remember the cabbage soup diet? Where you eat cabbage soup like for every meal, and then you drink water only, and you can have I think you can have bananas or whatever. Well, I remember doing that, and I lasted about 3 days on it. I lasted 3 days, y'all. Why? Because you know what? I was like, man, all right, I know cabbage is good for you. I was going to the bathroom more than I
Makes you have
normally
gas.
go.
Makes you have a lot of gas.
That too, brother. Right? I had that as well. I mean, I was feeling like lighter in weight, but when I went to get on the schedule, or on the schedule, when I went to get on the scale, I hadn't lost any weight. Like I'd done this 3 days.
It's because you're starving your body, and your body's holding on to the
Yeah,
fat.
yeah, I was to a degree, but here's the thing. I really didn't give it much of a chance to work because I only did it for 3 days and I quit. I remember doing the Atkins diet. Anybody do the Atkins diet? Did anybody do that, right? I remember doing the Atkins diet, and that one lasted about 2 weeks. It was like, man, I'm sick of eating all this stupid stuff. This is stupid. And I tried to be a vegetarian. Now, I'm a vegetarian now, but do you know how many times I tried to be a vegetarian before I became a vegetarian? Probably about 10 times. I tried, and then I would pass by church's chicken, and that chicken would be smelling so good. Oh, forget this. I need me some chicken. I tried it, and all the time I would fail because of willpower. And you know what I would do is I would blame myself. Be like, you big dummy, you're an idiot. All these other people are doing it. All these other people can do it. Why can't you do it? And I'd blame myself, and I'd be down on myself, and sometimes it would cause me to binge eat. I was a terrible emotional eater. And I would, if I was down on myself, it'd be straight to the candy section. Cupcakes,
Cookies.
pastries, anything I could get my hands on, I would just eat and eat and eat. And I would eat, and oftentimes I'd eat until I got sick because I'd be so upset at myself for quitting the diet, right? Okay, small changes. Oh, all right, so so on that second point there, a lot of times we look for a threshold. We look for a threshold to cross. And for the first time, I remember when I was trying to do the vegetarian thing, and I remember that I made it a month. And when I made it a month, I was so proud of myself. I was so proud of myself, y'all, because I'd never done it for that long. And in fact, up till that point, I don't think I stuck with anything for 30 days straight consciously. And it was like, man, I started to feel like, man, well, if I did 30 days, I could do another month of this. And if I could do this, what about other things within my life? So, small changes a lot of times have no effect until we see some level of result, until you see yourself lose weight, until you see yourself, change as an individual. But here's the thing I want to encourage you. This book encourages you to keep going, because a lot of times you're not going to, you can't condition yourself to see change right away, right? Joey, you're going to start going to you said you started the gym just the other day, right?
Ability 360.
Right, okay. Now here's the thing, is that
Well, my friend.
you going to the gym, you will likely not see any physical changes for a couple months. It's probably not going to happen. You might see your weight fluctuate. You might say, man, I've been going to the gym every day, I'm exercising, I'm killing myself at this. What? I gained weight? How did that happen?
You're on a diet.
You might
muscle
listen.
weighs
You
more
might
than
be
fat.
building muscle. Muscle weighs more than fat. So if the only way that you can be successful is to go to the gym and to lose weight, you probably will quit. You just got to look at something like, well, what about body composition? Now you're at it. How about like how my clothes fit me? Now you're talking. How about just being proud of myself for doing it for a consecutive amount of time? Now you're on to something. Because if you can get in that mentality and not worry about, well, what does the scale say? Anytime I'm counseling someone that's wanting to go through a weight loss journey, you know what I tell them is like, hey, for the first month, I don't even want you to look at the scale. Like, well, how am I going to know if any of this is working? Not by looking at the scale, because the scale is going to fluctuate. You know, how many of you weigh yourself every day? Anybody weigh themselves every day? You weigh yourself? I don't weigh myself every day. But there was a time when I was really working on my fitness where I was like, oh, I want to see it. I want to see everything. But here's the thing, is that if you're going to weigh yourself every day, you have to do it at the same time. You have to do it kind of in the same conditions, because things can change within the day. Like you might be at one weight at 6 in the morning and might be at a different weight at 6 at night. It's just different, right? Okay, so an atomic habit. Now, here's the definition of an atomic habit. An atomic habit is a little habit that is part of a larger system, just as atomic as the building blocks of molecules. Atomic habits are the building blocks of remarkable results. If you want if you want better results, then forget about setting goals. What I tell you, goals are good, but in terms of what we're going to be studying for the next 7 weeks, they're kind of worthless. Like for you just, oh, hey, I set a goal of I want to be a millionaire. That's nice. That's great. But what are the systems that you have to get you to be a millionaire? If you have no systems, then you just have a goal. You have just a thought. You have a dream. I'm sorry.
I just want to pay my bills at the month and have a little bit left over to save.
Hey, that's a good goal. Yeah, that's a good, well, that's good, but then you have to come up with systems. You have to come up with systems. One of the systems that was mentioned so far is our sister Chandra Renee mentioned. She was like, well, I have a good habit. I can save a couple $100 every time I get some money. That's good. And also, if it's like I just want to be able to pay my bills and have a little bit left over at the end, one of the systems that you can incorporate is like, hey, I am going to have a good habit to whenever I get my money, if it's a check, if they pay me a check, cash, if they deposit it in my account, I'm going to set aside a certain amount of that money so that I'll have enough to pay my bills and I'll have enough to have a little bit extra at the end. So very good. Okay. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Now, when I was teaching those real estate agents that they were worthy, that they were good enough, that they had made the right decision to get in this business, all of them had not, or all of them, when I looked at their situation, it wasn't their goals. When we talked about goals to them, all of them, oh, well, it's to sell 6 houses a month. It's to, I want to sell 36 houses within my first year. I want to get so, and everyone had very, reasonable goals. They were reasonable, but when I started to ask them about their systems, you could hear a pin drop. Oh, well, I want to sell 6 houses within a month. Okay, what's your system to get you there? Well, I know a lot of people. People know what I do. So I just figure that they'll come to me.
They won't come to you, you have to
You got to go out, you got to find them.
find it.
You got to have a system by which you can find 6 people that want to buy or sell a house every week. If you just have the goal to sell 6 houses and you don't have a system to back that up, never going to sell a house. Okay, now I'm close to the unhoused community. This church does a lot for the unhoused community. But you know that there are some people that don't want to not be homeless. Some people just don't want that. Now, here's the thing. There's a lot of them will tell you, I have a goal. I don't want to be homeless no more. I don't want to be homeless. Okay, you don't want to be homeless. So what's your system to get out of homelessness? Think about it. If someone is without a home, someone doesn't have a place to be able to live, what are they going to have to do? Can they have the same goals that our sister Lisa has? Like, hey, I just want to make enough money, pay my bills, and have a little bit left over, and I'll be good. Well, if she has a place to stay, well, she's already taken care of that particular part of it. But it could come into play that a person that does not have a home, what's one of the first orders of business?
Been there too.
What's that?
I've been in the.
Oh, yeah, been in the, yes, ma'am, right. Okay, but so then you tell me if I'm wrong. One of the first things to do is if you're unhoused without housing, you should probably get a job.
That's the first thing I did.
Got to get some type of a job, because here's the thing, is no one's just going to give you a free house. No one, now some programs do or whatever, but most of the times it's only for a short period of time. So you got to get a job. You got to get something that you can do to generate income. Because if you can get some income, then you can be able to do like our sister Lisa said. I'll put a little bit away. Or do like Sister Chandra Renee said, hey, I can put a couple $100 away every time I get paid. Now, some people are unhoused and they have a job. What do you think that the first order of business for them to do would be? Now in the religious sense, I know a lot of religious people would say, oh, pay your tithes. Okay, that's good. It's good to do that. But here's the thing, is I'd say even above that, learn how to manage your money. Manage it. Now, if you have
by paying him first.
Yeah, you can.
That's managing it.
Yeah,
right
that's doing it. But here's the thing. Sometimes people, particularly religious people, they will get into and they'll hear that. Okay, I'm gonna pay my tithes. Okay, they pay their tithes. But what do? Well, they keep smoking cigarettes. Okay, well, if you keep smoking cigarettes and you need a house, how much does a pack of cigarettes cost?
$9.
$9, sometimes $12. If you're smoking the premium ones, maybe $15. And if you're a chain smoker, if you're doing that every single day, what does that cost you? So if you're smoking cigarettes, what's one of the things you might want to do? Cut back on that. I want to have a roof over my head more than I want nicotine within my body.
Mm-hmm.
If you feel like you have to have a beer, you better quit messing with that. Cut it down. Can't drink every day if you don't want to be housed. If you want to be housed, you're going to have to be responsible. So a lot of people, they just look at like, well, and I'll ask a lot of unhoused people like, hey, why do you feel like you're homeless? And they'll say, oh, well, it's someone else's fault, or the system, or society, or, no one wants to help me. Everybody else got it, but nobody want to help me. I had my late brother.
So it was my fault.
Yeah, some will admit it. My brother would say, man, all my brothers and sisters, all y'all got houses, and here I don't have no house. And we'd be like, well, what do you want us to do? Like, give up our house so we can be like, or like, what? No. We all have systems by which help us to maintain the houses that we have. Sometimes my brother would come and he would crash at my house. I let him kick it for a while. But my rule was this: I don't let no grown man stay in my house when I go to work. Every adult that's in this house has to work. I don't want to do that. Okay, so there's people that get into programs. There's shelters, right? Ask people like, hey, why are you staying on the street? Nobody loves me, nobody. Well, they've got shelters everywhere. Well, why don't you go to, well, shelter won't let me take my dog. Shelter won't let me sleep with my boyfriend or my girlfriend. Shelter wants you to be in at a certain time. Shelter wants me to go out and look for a job every day.
Well, you have to get a job.
What's that?
You have to get a job.
Got to get a job, or you will stay in that situation. So it's habits. It's habits. When we look at, like, people ask, well, why do you think so many people are unhoused? I think the system is crummy. I think that we're not taking care of people with mental illnesses. I don't think we're taking care of our veterans. I think that there's a lot of stuff. I think that rent is too high. I think housing is out there. The government has not put any controls on stuff like rent. So you're gonna have, it's gonna be hard for a lot of people. But here's the thing, I don't think it's impossible. I think it's hard. I think they should be doing things to make it easier. But in the meantime, you gotta come up with systems. All right, so when we look at chapter 1, I wanna go over, just wanna read to you a couple of things from chapter 1, and you'll see these as you read them. I'm at page 15 in the big book. I don't know if it's the same in the small book, but why small habits make big differences. Is everybody there? Why small habits make big differences? All right. It's so easy to overestimate the importance of defining moments and underestimating the value of making small improvements on a daily basis. Too often, we conceive ourselves that we convince ourselves that massive success requires massive action. Massive success requires massive action. Whether it's to lose weight, building a business, writing a book, winning a championship, or achieving any other goal, we put pressure on ourselves to make some earth-shattering improvement that everyone will talk about. Meanwhile, improving by 1% is particularly notable. Sometimes it's even noticeable, but it can be far more meaningful, especially in the long run. Now, getting 1% better each day, what does that look like? So I'll give you some examples. If you have the goal, I want to be a better parent to my child. If you're lacking in communication with your child, if you say, I'm going to have a conversation with with my child every day. I think that that's getting 1% better.
I wish I could.
Why can't you?
My daughter passed.
Oh, okay, well, she's not here. Okay, I'm talking about those that are here, and my
Oh, no,
condolences to you.
All
Pastor
my other
Martel.
kids, they're all in distant custody. They were up for adoption, they got adopted.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, so in that regard, and being a parent, you know, it's like, okay, if I want to be a more positive parent, I don't want to be so critical. Well, what could you do? Well, you know, what if I give a compliment every day to this child? Regardless if they've done something remarkable or not, what if I just give them one compliment? That could be a 1% improvement. How about, my goal is I'm going to lose weight. Well, how could you get 1% better at losing weight? Hey, you know what? I'm going to start drinking more water. I'm going to drink an extra glass of water every day. That could be part of the 1%. I always tell people in terms of weight loss, don't start with signing up for a gym. Don't do that, because a lot of times that creates undue pressure and it costs money. You know what I tell people? Start walking. Start walking. Walking, increasing your step count. You know that the average American walks 4,700 steps a day, right? American. But the average hunter-gatherer, I believe that they walk like almost 14,000 steps a day. Why? Because they don't have cars. Why? Because they don't have people giving them rides. They have to walk. Like Joey, I understand you don't have transportation, right?
I walked everywhere.
But he
I go.
walked 3 miles every day. He walks for lack of transportation, right? Now, some people just take the bus. Like, hey, well, I take the bus and I walk a few steps to whatever the bus stop is. But you know, what if you say, okay, I take the bus, but I'm gonna walk from this stop to this stop, and I'll get picked up a mile later so that I can lose weight. That could be part of the 1% getting better, right? Okay, so we talk about 1% better each day. It is a significant change. Now, the second part that I want, and I'm running out of time, I know I'm running out of time, is what is progress really like? Now, what you'll read in the book is he's going to talk about ice. So if I put an ice cube right on this table, and I say, okay, what is the ice cube doing? Well, I don't know, it's just sitting there. Well, what is it doing actively? It's actively melting. Now, some of you might look at it 1 minute, and you're looking at your book, and you look at it another minute and say, well, there ain't nothing changed. No, something's changed. 1%. It's changed a little bit. And if we sat here for 30 minutes, there'd be a little puddle of water that would be there. Because little by little, every degree that it gets warmer, that's reducing. About 1 degree at a time, 1 degree at a time. It's just like if we had a bottle of water and I put it in a freezer. And I went back and I looked in the freezer 5 minutes and ain't nothing happening. Water's still water. But what would happen if I went back 10 minutes later? It'd be probably really cold to the touch. But I went up 20 minutes later, like, oh, ice is starting to form in it. And then I come back an hour later, thing will be solid. So what are we saying about habits? It can be just like melting ice. It could be like forming ice. But all it takes is 1%, or 1% to get better, all right? So now, chapter 2. How habits shape your identity. So if you've got chapter 2, I'd like someone to read the first 2 paragraphs.
I got it.
All right.
Why is it so easy to repeat bad habits and so hard to form good ones? Few things can have more powerful impact on your life than improving your daily habits. And yet it is likely that this time next year you'll be doing the same thing rather than something better.
Right.
It often feels difficult to keep good habits going for more than a few days, even with sincere effort and the occasional burst of motivation. Habits like exercise, meditation, journaling, and cooking are reasonable for a day, or 2, and then they become a hassle.
Very good. Okay, so I want you to focus on one thing now. However, once your habits are established, they seem to stick around forever, especially the unwanted ones. Despite our best intentions, unhealthy habits like eating junk food, watching too much television, procrastinating, and smoking can feel impossible to break. All right. So what this chapter, just giving you a review of this chapter, it talks about identity. So if you want to stop smoking cigarettes, one of the things that you could start doing is you could start identifying as a non-smoker. I am a non-smoker. One of the habits, one of the identities, think about this. If you want to have the habit of cleaning up your house, how would you characterize that? You would characterize it with saying these words: I am the type of person that keeps their house clean every day. I'm the type of person that keeps their house clean. You know, well, the opposite would be what? I'm a dirty person. Who wants to be a dirty person? Nobody.
Nope.
But if you can establish the identity that I am the type of person that is clean, you can start to change the habit of not keeping a clean house. How about with exercise? You know, with exercise, I had mentioned it the other week in a sermon. One of the things that I've come to grips with, my identity is I am an athlete. I'm an athlete because, like Brother Frank, I work out every day. I do something athletic. I take care of myself. I watch what I eat. I make sure I take care of my health. Like our sister Teresa said, I started to get good sleep. I started sleeping like an athlete. I started to study other athletes, and one athlete I studied was Tom Brady, the former quarterback, championship Super Bowl winning quarterback. He's retired now. But one of the things that he started to do is when he got older, he was like, man, I had to start taking care of my body. And one of the things that I did in taking care of my body, the best life hack that I had was to start sleeping at least 8 hours every day. So one of his habits is, to this day, he's no longer an NFL quarterback. But he's like, I go to bed at 9 o'clock every day. I just go to, because I know I'm going to be waking up to exercise. I know that as a professional athlete, my body needs that recovery. My body needs that because I push my body very, very hard. So I think about myself when we first started doing the 5K. That was like in 2010. Back in 2010, I didn't look how I look today because I was not an athlete. I just embraced the idea of doing a 5K because there was a few people in the church that wanted to do it. But that started me on the quest of, okay, well, a 5K, what does that take? What does it take to run a 5K? It's like, man, and then I figured it's like 3.1 miles. That's a long way. There's no way I could be able to run 3.1 miles. Well, I started slowly. Started with a half mile. Then it got to a mile. Then it got to 3. And before long, I started to run a 5K like it was nothing. I could probably run a 5K right now in dress clothes because it's part of the repetition, it's part of the habit.
After that.
But you're right. But also, it became part of the building blocks to my identity changing as to being an athlete. I am an athlete. Why? Because I started to embrace the habits of athletes. So, identity. Think about this. When we think about our personal success, how many do you really think in your mind that you are successful? A lot of people don't think that they're successful. A lot of people are like, well, no, I'm not successful and they'll say, because I don't have this, or because I don't have that. And what I would say that the book teaches us is we're not successful not because of what we don't have. We're not successful because of what we do not do. What we do not do. To be wealthy, got to have a wealthy mentality. How do wealthy people think? Do they just think about spending money all the time? No.
I wish I could.
They think about investing They think about saving. They think about ways that they can cut costs. Therefore, it creates a habit of being frugal with their money. And if they're frugal with their money, that will help them in the long run eventually to become a wealthy person. Now, statistically, I'm not wealthy, but I am a wealthy person because I got the mind of a wealthy person. Someone that thinks that they're a person that's 6'5" and a person that's 5'2". They're on two different levels of the spectrum of height. But they're also two different levels of the spectrum of identity.
I met actually a person today that was 5'2".
It's 5'2", okay, yeah. So a person that's 5'2" is going to, in their mind, they might have been told all their life, you are a short person, so they think that they're a short person. But what if that person that's 5'2" just changes their identity? They say, I'm not a short person. I am tall. What do you think is going to happen? Well, they're not going to grow to be 6'5", but here's what may happen. They might start standing up straight. They might start keeping good posture. They might start, because if the only thing that's keeping them back from being tall is their identity, well, we can change our identity at any particular time. It's all within our head. It's all within our mind. How many of you consider yourself a smart person? A lot of people don't consider themselves to be a smart person. But here's the thing, is that now you could be egotistical and say that you're a smart person. You really ain't smart. But what do smart people do? One of the things that I look at that I've seen of all smart people is all smart people read. I've not met too many smart people that are just like, books. Nah, not me, bro. I never read books. Most people that are smart, they read books, right? Most people that are smart, I consider smart, they have a level of self-control. So if they have a level of self-control, what does that mean? They don't do dumb stuff. They do smart stuff. I would always tell my kids, behave as a smart person. And when I felt like it got into their heads is when I didn't have to worry about it anymore. Smart people don't do that. Smart people don't, they don't follow the crowd. Smart people aren't ones that are constantly making bad decisions. Smart people, typically, they get around smart people, birds of a feather. You don't find, a genius in the middle of the gang most of the time. You find everybody a gang member. Everybody's kind of on the same mentality. But then when you look at people that are part of groups like Mensa, well, you have to have a certain IQ to be in that group, and there's certain characteristics that a lot of those people have because they've adopted the idea that they are a smart person. How about Christian? What does the Bible say? In Christ we become what? A new creation.
Yep.
You have to project it within your mind first. If you don't project it within your mind, it ain't gonna never happen. Well, I'm a new creation, but I can't get away from all my old habits because in your mind, you still think of yourself as that person in the past. You still think of yourself as that old sinner. I think of my person as a person that's set free by the blood of Jesus Christ. I feel like that I am a person that is favored by God. How many of you feel that way? When I go in a room with 10 people, I don't feel less than. I feel at the top 10% of that group because I feel like that God has made me the head and not the tail. All starts with identity. What do you identify as? So chapter 2 will talk about your identity. So, in order to become a reader, well, the goal is not to read a book. The goal is to become a reader. The goal is not to run a marathon. The goal is to become a runner. The goal is to not learn an instrument. The goal is to become a musician. All or these examples that he gives are very true. You know, a person that wants to become a reader is not just going to have the goal of just reading one book. It's just like, well, I want to become a reader. I want to start reading things everywhere I go. A person that wants to become or wants to run a marathon, well, if they just have the goal, I want to become a marathon runner. Well, the first step would be to just start to become a runner. Start running a distance. If it's to run a block, you run a block. If it's to run 2 blocks, you run 2 blocks. The goal, if you want to become a musician, can't just be, well, you know, I want to listen to some good music. Well, no, it's to become familiar with an instrument and to learn an instrument. And even if that instrument is just your voice, you become a musician by embracing the idea of becoming musically inclined, and music becomes part of your life. I'm terrible with directions. Anybody ever said that? I say it all the time. You know, I'm terrible with directions. Now, here's the thing, is if I keep saying that, am I going to get better at directions? Nope. I'm just going to stay terrible at directions. I'm not a morning person. Our sister Lisa is a morning person. But if I say I'm not a morning person, I probably will not make any initiative or effort to become a morning person. I'm bad at remembering people's names. Okay, do something about it. Don't just say you're bad at it. I'm always late. We'll start developing habits to where you're not late, and stop saying that you're always late. I'm not good with technology. That's the biggest thing that older people say. Oh, I don't know. I'm not good with technology. I don't know. How do I deal with this phone? I can't do Zoom. I can't do this. I can't send a text. I can't check my email. I don't let negative people just be negative all the time. Like, I correct them. Hey, well, I'm not good with tech. Why not? Why don't you practice with it? You can get better at it. It doesn't have to be that way all the time. I'm horrible at math. There's people that are afraid to take a college course because they're horrible at math. So what, you're horrible at math? They do have tutors. There is YouTube, and you can learn a lot of things off of that. So you don't have to, you know, the things that we criticize ourselves with, we can't internalize. I'm not a bad driver. I'm not bad at directions. Now, I might have challenges with that, but I've got to change my identity if I want anything to change. All right, 3 in the final chapter, how to build better habits in 4 simple steps. I'm just going to give you the 4 simple steps, and I'm going to let you read the rest of them. How do I make, or what would I suggest in terms of making a habit? Okay, now if we're going to make habits, we have to make habits a certain way, and I'm going to give you 4 things in order to make habits good or to make them lasting. Number 1, you've got to make it obvious. Got to make it obvious. If I'm going to make a habit, I'm going to make it obvious that that's what my habit is. So if I'm saying, hey, I need to lose some weight, to make it obvious might be to write myself a note that says, watch what you eat today. Or I might send myself a text, no sweets today, no junk food, refrain from fast food. Okay, second one, make it attractive. Okay, a lot of times we have a habit and we look at, oh man, I gotta go back to this old crummy habit. This crummy habit's terrible, I hate doing this. Well, look at if you want to start going to the gym, how do you make it attractive? Well, hey, number 1, it's not saying that you have to go. I get to go to the gym today. I get to go. How do I make it attractive? Sometimes people, and there's people that criticize people for this, but they'll say like, man, why are you getting all dressed up to go to the gym? Because they have to make the habit attractive. You know, if you look at like gym attire now, oh man, people can spend a lot of money on gym clothes because clothing designers have made gym clothes fashionable. They call it athleisure. So not everyone, but a lot of people are wearing like yoga pants that have never done one session of yoga. It's attractive. Tennis shoes. We weren't always wearing tennis shoes, but athletes made them popular, so it's something that's attractive. So when I put on my running shoes, I'm making that attractive because I like the way that my running shoes look, right? Make it attractive. Hey, I'm going to, instead of smoking 10 cigarettes today, I'm going to smoke 9 cigarettes. And how am I going to do this? I'm going to assure myself that I'm only going to smoke 9 cigarettes because I'm not going to take the entire pack. I'm going to leave the pack at home and I'm going to take 9 with me. Make it attractive. I don't have that cigarette pocket look, the impression. You know, like the chewing chewing tobacco, right? You don't got that little round circle in the back of your pants, right? Make it attractive. Do something to make it attractive. Okay. When I told you I was addicted to soda, what did I tell you I did to keep that going? I drink half of the soda and I leave the other half right there by my bed, right? I made that habit. It was a bad habit, but I made it easy to stay addicted to soda because I kept it right with me all the time. How do you make a habit easy? You make it in arm's length. I can do it real quick. I don't have to go through a lot. You know, meal prep. You want to lose weight? Start preparing your meals in advance. Cook them. You know, if you do three days of meals and you spend, an hour cooking those 3 meals and you put them in Tupperware, and you keep them in the refrigerator, and you get this insatiable craving for McDonald's. Make it easy. I don't have to go to McDonald's to get a meal. I got food right in the refrigerator. I made it easy because I've already put it together. All I have to do is stick it in the microwave and I can eat that food and it's readily available. How do you make it easy? I want to start drinking more water. Keep water with you. If it's a water bottle, if it's a flask, you keep it with you. And then the final one, make it satisfying. Make it satisfying. If you want to develop a new habit, it's gotta be something that brings a level of satisfaction. It's gotta bring a level of like, wow, I feel good at doing it. Like if you don't want to watch TV, like, hey, I watch so much TV, watch hours and hours of TV every day. Well, how can you make it satisfying? Maybe you read a good book. Start reading something that you're interested in. Maybe you switch it up and you go for a walk. Like, wow, I felt good being outside. That was pretty good. If it's to be a better spouse, if being a better spouse is to be more present to your spouse, being present to someone can create a very good feeling and it can feel very satisfying. Like at the end of the day, man, me and my wife spent time together. That's satisfying. That's good. We're building everything it takes to make a good marriage. So, make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. So, those were the 3 emphases of chapter number 3. Now, if you don't have the book, what are you going to do? Listen to it.
YouTube.
Go to YouTube. Everyone's got a cell phone. Everyone's got access to a computer. Go to YouTube.
So what chapters do you want us to read for next week?
So what I want you to do is I want you to catch up this week. I want you to read these first 3 chapters. That's what I want you to do.
Okay.
Yeah. So now, if you've already done the first 3 chapters, has anybody already read the first 3 chapters?
I haven't. I didn't know we were supposed to.
Okay. No.
I did
Okay.
read the first one though. So.
All right, so here's the thing, is what we're going to be doing is we're going to be teaching this in sections. I'm going to teach and Brother Javier is going to be able to teach. So next week, Brother Javier is going to teach, and I believe that he's going to go to the first law, which the first law is make it obvious. That's what I just read. So you will likely, on the next one, we'll be doing chapters 4, 5, 6, and 7. So if you want to go ahead and get caught up for next week already, you can read 1 through 7, chapters 1 through 7. If you are a slower reader, or if you're just reading it and taking it all in, try to get the first 3 chapters down because that's what I just went over. Next week, you'll be taught chapters 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
All right. And like I said, if you can't bring yourself to read it, bring yourself to listen to the audiobook. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any more of the smaller books?
Yes, I do. I got one. You want a smaller one?
Yeah.
It's yours. Now, it's $10, but you don't have to pay it now. You don't have to pay it next week. Just pay it by the time class is up. And that's in 7 weeks. So. And even, and quiet is kept, I'm not going to send a debt collector after anybody for a $10 book. But the emphasis that I want to make is I really want to get this book in the hands of as many people as I can. I feel like that our church can experience revival if we adapt new habits. There's people in the church that say, Pastor, pray for me. I'm on drugs and I can't get off. I can pray for you, but you got to develop habits that get you to not do drugs anymore. Okay? I can help you with the habits, but I can't help you to follow through with the habits. You got to do that yourself. They say, hey, Pastor, I got this nicotine issue and I want you to just pray for me that this won't happen. I can pray for you, but that's a chemical addiction that you have. So praying is good and God can help you, but even God wants you to develop habits. So it's not that you quit this week and you pick it back up next week. Some of you have you had goals about your finances? How many want to see your finances change, right? And if you want to see your finances change, just having that desire is not going to do it. Having the desire alone to say, hey, I want to be rich. Well, what systems are you putting in place in order to get there?
Yeah.
What are you doing in order to, with those real estate agents? You know what I got them doing? I got them on habits. I had them start calling people. I had them to start meditating every day. Just get away from everything and start meditating. Start finding the value in living. I had those individuals to start talking to strangers, which a lot of them hated. Oh, come on, Martel, talk to strangers. Look, dummy, you said you wanted to sell 6 houses a month. You ain't gonna sell 6 houses a month if you're scared to talk to strangers.
Yeah.
Get your lazy butt out there and start talking to people. Well, wait, I'm not gonna go to the store.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the mall. Go to the park. Go where people that would buy a house would be. Go to these places. Talk to people. I said, oh, well, I just have a hard time breaking the ice. And I told him it was like this. Get a name badge. Oh, some people thought it was beneath them to get a name badge. Oh, that's like a retail worker. That's not, well, I'm a business, so why would I wear a name badge? So people recognize without you having to say anything, dummy. You wear the badge, and people say, oh, hey, you. That's how I got sales. Started wearing my badge everywhere. I remember back in the day when I was going to church, I used to wear my badge occasionally to church. But you know what happened? People in church, oh, you forgot your badge. Oh, no, yeah, I didn't. But everybody before long in that church knew I sold real estate. And you know what happened? The pastor started, he's like, hey, you sell real estate? Help me and my wife buy a house. All because I said, because see, here's the thing. It wasn't enough for me to say, oh, I want to sell 6 houses every month. I had to start doing some things in order to make that happen. All right. Any questions? I took more of your time than I would have, but don't let that discourage you. Brother Javier is much more short-winded than I am. I'm just kind of a long-winded person. So, all right, Father, in Jesus' name, thank you for this investment of time that we've made here today to improve ourselves, to get better at setting habits. God, we pray in Jesus' name that you would help us to look at the areas of our life to where we can improve, and then to develop habits and systems that will help us to achieve what we want to be. We thank you and we praise you. We ask for traveling mercies for everyone that drove here. God, we ask for peace of mind for everybody that came to this session. We thank you and praise you. In Jesus' name.